I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about blank. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought. You fill in the blank. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. Thank you all so much for joining me today here on Friday, January the 19th of 2024. Lesson 19. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. Let's see what he has to say about this idea. The idea for today is obviously the reason why your seeing does not affect you alone. You will notice that at times the idea related to thinking precede those related to perceiving, while at other times the order is reversed. The reason is that order does not matter. Thinking and its results are really simultaneous, for cause and effect are never separate. Today we are again emphasizing the fact that minds are joined. This is rarely a wholly welcome idea at first, since it seems to carry with it an enormous sense of responsibility and may even be regarded as an invasion of privacy. Yet it is a fact that there are no private thoughts. Despite your initial resistance to this idea, you will yet understand that this must be true if salvation is possible at all. And salvation must be possible because it is the will of God. Now let's stop there. We got the basic idea of what we're trying to get into, and we'll come back and learn how to do it. We've got a really important understanding, and we're ready for Chapter 3, the innocent perception. And I don't believe I mentioned that I'm forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks, Miracle Willie, and I am so grateful that you've come to join me. Now, I'm just going to read through this, and I'll point out some Bible verses. You might have a pen ready to write them down, or I'll try to put them all in the description below. A lot of Bible verses in this section. He's trying to explain a really key idea in innocent perception. Number 1, atonement without sacrifice. A further point must be perfectly clear before any residual fear still associated with miracles can disappear. The crucifixion did not establish the atonement. The resurrection did. Many sincere Christians have misunderstood this. And I might add, most sincere Christians. He says many sincere Christians have misunderstood this. No one who is free of the belief in scarcity could possibly make this mistake. If the crucifixion is seen from an upside-down point of view, it does appear as if God permitted and even encouraged one of his sons to suffer because he was good. This particularly unfortunate interpretation, which arose out of projection, has led many people to be bitterly afraid of God. Such anti-religious concepts enter into many religions, yet the real Christian should pause and ask, how could this be? Is it likely that God himself would be capable of the kind of thinking which his own words have clearly stated is unworthy of his Son? And I expect he's referring to love your neighbor as yourself there, which is out of Mark chapter 12, verse 3, Galatians 14, is it Galatians 14? I'm not sure about that. Galatians, it couldn't be 14. There's not that many chapters. It must be 1 verse 4 maybe. Anyway, you'll find it in Galatians, and also in the Old Testament, Leviticus 19:18 even says it. Paragraph 2. The best defense, as always, is not to attack another's position, but rather to protect the truth. It is unwise to accept any concept if you have to invert a whole frame of reference in order to justify it. This procedure is painful in its minor applications and genuinely tragic on a wider scale. Persecution frequently results in an attempt to justify the terrible misperception that God Himself persecuted His own Son on behalf of salvation. The very words are meaningless. It has been particularly difficult to overcome this because although the error itself is no harder to correct than any other, many have been unwilling to give it up in view of its prominent value as a defense. In other words, well, Jesus got mad and threw over the money changers, so it's okay if I get a little upset. That kind of idea. In milder forms, a parent says, This hurts me more than it hurts you, and feels exonerated in beating a child. Can you believe our Father really thinks this way? It is so essential that all such thinking be dispelled that we must be sure that nothing of this kind remains in your mind. I was not punished because you were bad. He wasn't punished at all. The holy benign lesson the atonement teaches is lost if it is tainted with this kind of distortion in any form. Paragraph 3. The statement, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, you can find in Romans 12, verse 19 through 21, and that's quoting from Deuteronomy 32, verse 35. The statement, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, is a misperception by which one assigns his own evil past to God. The evil past has nothing to do with God. He did not create it, and He does not maintain it. God does not believe in retribution. His mind does not create that way. He does not hold your, in quotes, evil deeds against you. Is it likely that He would hold them against me? Be very sure that you recognize how utterly impossible this assumption is and how entirely it arises from projection. This kind of error is responsible for a host of related errors, including the belief that God rejected Adam and forced him out of the Garden of Eden. And you'll find that out of Genesis 3 and verse 23. It is also why you may believe from time to time that I am misdirecting you. I have made every effort to use words that are almost impossible to distort, but it is possible to twist symbols around if you wish. 4. Sacrifice is a notion totally unknown to God. It arises solely from fear, and frightened people can be vicious. Sacrificing in any way is a violation of my injunction that you should be merciful, even as your Father in heaven is merciful. And Jesus said that in Luke chapter 6, verse 36 and 37. It has been hard for many Christians to realize that this applies to themselves. Good teachers never terrorize their students. To terrorize is to attack, and this results in rejection of what the teacher offers. The result is learning failure. I have been correctly referred to as the Lamb of God who taketh away the sins of the world. And that's what John the Baptist said when Jesus came to be baptized. John chapter 1 and verse 29. I have been correctly referred to as the Lamb of God who taketh away the sins of the world. But those who represent the Lamb as bloodstained do not understand the meaning of the symbol. Correctly understood, it is a very simple symbol that speaks of my innocence. The lion and the lamb lying down together symbolize that strength and innocence are not in conflict but naturally live in peace. And that's in Isaiah 65, verse 25. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. out of the Beatitudes. They're on the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, is another way of saying the same thing. Now, that's part out of Matthew chapter 5, verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, is another way of saying the same thing, that the lion and the lamb lie down together, showing that innocence and peace, or strength and innocence, live together. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, is another way of saying the same thing. A pure mind knows the truth, and this is its strength. It does not confuse destruction with innocence, because it associates innocence with strength, not with weakness. Innocence is incapable of sacrificing anything, because the innocent mind has everything and strives only to protect its wholeness. It cannot project. It can only honor other minds, because honor is the natural greeting of the truly loved to others who are like them. Honor. The natural greeting of the truly loved to others who are like them. The Lamb taketh away the sins of the world. There again out of John chapter 1, verse 29. There, the Lamb taketh away the sins of the world, in the sense that the state of innocence or grace is one in which the meaning of the atonement is perfectly apparent. The atonement is entirely unambiguous. It is perfectly clear because it exists in light. Only the attempts to shroud it in darkness have made it inaccessible to those who do not choose to see. Paragraph 7. The atonement itself radiates nothing but truth. It therefore epitomizes harmlessness and sheds only blessing. It could not do this if it arose from anything but perfect innocence. Innocence is wisdom because it is unaware of evil, and evil does not exist. That's something that you'll find very helpful if you just set aside the idea that there's anything evil going on. The only thing evil going on is our evil dreams, but those are dreams, they're not real. So let's not settle in thinking that there's bad people or evil people. Let's see that there's hurting people, there's misdirected, there's ignorant people, but we have a great light that we can free them from their darkness, wake them from their dream. So let's look at this again, starting in 7. The atonement itself radiates nothing but truth. It therefore epitomizes harmlessness and sheds only blessing. It could not do this if it arose from anything but perfect innocence. Innocence is wisdom because it is unaware of evil, and evil does not exist. It is, however, perfectly aware of everything that is true. The resurrection demonstrates that nothing can destroy truth. God can withstand any form of evil, as light abolishes forms of darkness. The atonement is therefore the perfect lesson. And you know that's actually a quote that light abolishes forms of darkness is out of John chapter 1 also, verse 5. The atonement is therefore the perfect lesson. It is the final demonstration that all the other lessons I taught are true. If you can accept this one generalization now, there will be no need to learn from many smaller lessons. Wow, let's learn it. Light abolishes darkness. The atonement is therefore the perfect lesson that there is no evil. We can practice forgiveness towards everything that seems to be evil, because that will bring us to reality. We can learn from that one generalization. The atonement is therefore the perfect lesson. It is the final demonstration that all the other lessons I taught are true. If you can accept this one generalization now, there will be no need to learn from many smaller lessons. You're released from all errors if you believe this. And the last paragraph, the innocence of God is the true state of mind of His Son. In this state, your mind knows God, for God is not symbolic, He is fact. Knowing His Son as He is, you realize that the atonement, not sacrifice, is the only appropriate gift for God's altar, where nothing except perfection belongs. The understanding of the innocent is truth. That is why their altars are truly radiant. Okay, now let's go back and look at lesson 19. But before we read it, let's talk a moment about what's going on around the world. And out of holidays and observances, I found that it is Archery Day, Artists as Outlaw Day, Confederate Memorial Day, Good Memory Day, International Fetish Day, National Gun Appreciation Day, National Popcorn Day, ZMAs. Everta is also, it's known as. New Friends Day, and I'm just thankful for the friends that I have that are willing to listen to the Course in Miracles, and thank you for being my friend. New Friends Day. Make some new friends and share your happiness and your joy. Robert E. Lee birthday in Florida. Tenderness Towards Existence Day. And I might add that's really gentleness is the way to awakening to Source. So, I would really encourage everyone to be gentle toward existence. I like that. I don't know what was in the person's mind, but I know that is the path, gentleness. And to, namaste, to see and honor God in everyone. Tin Can Day. You ever play Kick the Can? Anyway, Tin Can Day. World Day of Migrants and Refugees, and World Quark Day. Now, quark has actually two meanings. One, it's a, let's see if I can read my writing. Quark is a dairy product. The milk is soured, usually by adding lactic acid bacteria, strained once the desired curding is achieved. Fresh acid-set cheese is basically what quark is. And it's quite good for you from what I understand. And then also quark, I found this on byjus.com/physics/quark/. And it says, I just lifted it from there. Also, when you deal with nuclear physics, we usually come across matter that is made up of particles such as protons, neutrons, and electrons. These particles are made up of subatomic particles called quarks. And then all that what I found about, where did I find that other? I found the other in Wikipedia about the fresh acid-set cheese, a cultured milk. Okay, and then let's see. What else do we have? Real quick, about a word for peace is Kayanerenh, Kowa, and that's Haudenosaunee, or the Iroquois Nation, or the Iroquois Confederation, made up of Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and the Seminole. Franklin, Madison, and Jefferson, whose Franklin's birthday was the day before yesterday, kind of patterned the U.S. Constitution on the Iroquois Confederation 117 articles. Anyway, their word for peace is what I was trying to get to. It's the great peace symbolized by the eastern white pine tree, the Pinus strobus, and the men who brought it were the peacemaker, also known as Daganwida, and Hiawatha. Brought the peace that they realized that they needed to create a peaceful confederation. Kayanerenh, Kowa. And I imagine Kowa is peace, and the great is Kayanerenh, Kowa. So whether or not Kayanerenh, Kowa is the great peace, symbolized by a pine tree. And then in our edible landscaping, we're going to look at the elderberry, and the first one they have listed is the Adams elderberry. Adams is a native elderberry, very juicy berries, excellent for elixirs, pies, syrups, wines, etc. Late ripening and a heavy producer, pollinates with other native elderberries. Very large flower heads, height 6 to 12 feet, spaced 10-foot circles, zones 3 through 9. And it's the Cambacus canadensis. And then in our permaculture for beginners, we're looking at the parasitic wasp. These tiny wasps are very common, but so small that they can be hard to spot. Different species are adapted to target different garden pests, including aphids, whitefly, and caterpillars. They like the same kind of flowers as ladybugs or ladybirds and are harmless to humans. And I found that on Missouri Department of Conservation, most ichneumon wasps are harmless, although the long ovipositor is intimidating. Their larvae live as parasites inside caterpillars and other larval insects. Many of those insects are considered injurious to human interests. And then I found that there's 3 different varieties of these parasitic wasps. There's this would be Chalcidoidae. There's 500 species of them. And another genera is the Ichneumonidea, and there's 100,000 species of those. And Braconidae, there's only 50,000 species of those genera, all parasitic wasps. So there's a little bit more that we've learned about, and let's try our word for peace once again. Kayanerenh, Kowa. And I hope we've got that right. Now, chapter 19, or lesson 19, I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. The idea for today is obviously the reason why your seeing does not affect you alone. You will notice that at times the idea related to thinking precedes those related to perceiving, while at other times the order is reversed. The reason is that order does not matter. Thinking and its results are really simultaneously, for cause and effect are never separate. Today we are again emphasizing the fact that minds are joined. This is rarely a wholly welcome idea at first, since it seems to carry with it an enormous sense of responsibility and may even be regarded as an, in quotes, invasion of privacy. Yet it is a fact that there are no private thoughts. Despite your initial resistance to this idea, you will yet understand that it must be true if salvation is possible at all. And salvation must be possible because it is the will of God. The minute or so of mind searching which today's exercises require is to be undertaken with eyes closed. The idea for today is to be repeated first, and then the mind should be carefully searched for thoughts it contains at that time. As you consider each one, name it in terms of the central person or theme it contains, and holding it in your mind as you do so, say, I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about blank. The requirement of as much indiscriminateness as possible in selecting subjects for the practice periods should be quite familiar to you by now and will no longer be repeated each day, although it will occasionally be included as a reminder. Do not forget, however, that random selection of subjects for all practice periods remains essential throughout. Lack of order in this connection will ultimately make the recognition of lack of order of miracles, the lack of order in miracles, meaningful to you. Lack of order in this connection will ultimately make the recognition of lack of order in miracles meaningful to you. Apart from the as-needed application of today's idea, at least 3 practice periods are required, shortening the length of time involved if necessary. Do not attempt more than 4. So we're basically going to spend about 4 minutes today, 4 times, 1 minute each, and we're going to say, I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. And then we're going to close our eyes and say, I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thought about, and say whatever it is. So you be sure to do that today, best you can. and have fun at it. And if it's a little frightening because it leads you right into something that you're kind of scared to look at, well, he says that less than a minute's fine, and only 3 if you're finding it difficult. So be easy on yourself. He is. But he does want us to face our fears and replace them with love. Removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence is what we're doing. You might do one right now, one of your 1 minutes. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thought about you. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts about you. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts about you. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts about you. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts about you. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts about you. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. Well, thank you again. And our word in Iroquois, or Haudenosaunee, it's the same. The Haudenosaunee, or Iroquois. Kayanerenh, Kowa. Peace. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. Kayanerenh, Kowa.